A lot of people ask if I like sleep in my crown and if I just whip into the grocery store in it.
Yeah, she's like showering with it and everything.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Put the shower cap on it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the worst Asian podcast, where a couple Asian American millennials give you our shitty opinions on all things Asian. Hey Ben, how you doing today?
What's up, man?
Are you doing okay?
I'm good.
Can I be honest with you for a second?
Yeah, for once.
For once, I'm going to try to be honest with you. Normally, when we have these interviews, we try to do a very laid-back Q&A, very relaxed, very chill.
Yeah, that's true.
But do you kind of feel the same way that I do, where our guest today feels like she probably has an answer for every single question that we may have lined up?
I was thinking about it. She's kind of like the Dalai Lama.
Kind of. So I thought maybe throughout the episode, we would try to get her off balance a little bit, sprinkle in some questions that she wouldn't expect.
Yeah, I like that.
Do you have your calculus textbook on hand?
Let me look for it. Yep, it's right here.
I've got my European history over here, so I think we should be good to go. Let's welcome onto the podcast. She is a real-life Gen Zer, our personal ambassador to Alaska, and of course, the first Korean American to be crowned Miss America 2022. Let's say hello to the one and only Emma Broyles.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm sure you're shuffled around all over the place right now. Where are you currently right now?
I am in my apartment in Tempe, Arizona, which I actually just got back from DC a few hours ago. So I took a shower, I unpacked a little bit, and then tomorrow I'm headed out for about a month. So I'm going to do a lot of packing tomorrow.
Oh, geez. So you're just in town right now.
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, packing for a month and stuff. You got to think ahead with everything then.
Well, usually you're packing for like a 1 week trip.
It's difficult, especially as a girl. I feel like we are chronic overpackers. And so I kind of have to maintain that and put it all away and allow myself to let go of a few things.
Yeah.
You said it, Emma, not us.
Oh, don't worry. I'll say it for you.
With your busy schedule, what's like the most common question you get asked all the time that you're tired of answering, by the way?
Probably something I get asked every time I meet somebody is, what is your most favorite event that you've done so far? And I feel like that's such a hard question to answer. And it's okay. You can totally ask me that question.
He already did.
I give you full permission.
Thank you.
But I feel like a lot of the events that I'm really excited about have yet to happen, even though I've had plenty of events that I've really enjoyed. And so it's always a hard question just to pick one, It's always a bit difficult for me.
I ask this to every card-carrying member of Gen Z that I meet. Every single one of them. It's a bit narcissistic, but do Gen Zers listen to podcasts?
I actually really think that Gen Zers listen to podcasts, and it's because we have such short attention spans that when we have to sit down and actually read a book, it becomes like the most challenging task of all time.
Completely.
I feel like you don't very often see members of the Gen Z population sitting and reading like a hard copy book. If you were to see them reading a book, they'd be reading on their Kindle or on their iPad,
Yeah.
But I think that with Gen Z especially, we always like strive to have such busy lifestyles because I think it's so ingrained in our generation to be busy is kind of like what defines you and how successful you are, and that we don't actually have time. So I know for me, when I'm at the gym, I'll be listening to a podcast or something. It's so convenient. But it's so funny. I think that Gen Z is like the perfect audience for a podcast.
We need to rebrand a little bit more and reach towards other Gen Zers.
That's good to know, for the future now.
Exactly. It's crazy. I really don't think that people my age really just read for fun. I think that a lot of us like to listen to self-help podcasts. So for me, I listen to some Tiny Meat Gang podcast when I'm at the gym. I gotta listen to some Cody Co.
Surprisingly, every Gen Z that I do ask that to will always defend themselves and say that they do listen to podcasts.
Yes.
Even though there is that common belief that Gen Zers don't. Like you said, the short attention span. So great myth busting on your part.
Okay.
I wanted to get to a quick segment because I'll be honest, both Ben and I have never been to Alaska at all.
City boys
That's
here. We're
totally
city
fair.
boys.
That's totally fair.
So I'm going to throw some facts and stats at you. This may not be factual, even though I'm calling them stats or fact.
Yeah, we are not.
I just
very
want to
factual.
see whether you think they're true, your thoughts on all this.
Pick your brain a little, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. All right. Are you ready, Ms. Broyles?
I'm ready.
I think some parts of Alaska gets 22 hours of sunlight during the summer. Is this true?
That is true. And in fact, if you go really far north in Alaska, the sun actually doesn't dip below the horizon for about a 3-month time span. And conversely, in the winter, the sun doesn't even come up for a 3-month period.
Yo,
Isn't
that's
that
wild.
insane? Yeah.
That's trippy.
I know, it is crazy. But so if this is Alaska, I live in Anchorage, which is down here compared to where you would see, the sun not coming up for 3 months would be like all the way up at the tippy top. But Anchorage is like a much more subdued version of that. So yes, in Anchorage, we typically see that where we'll have 22 hours of sunlight and then like 5 or 6 hours of sunlight in the wintertime.
That is crazy. How do you keep your sleep rhythm in check when the sun is there like literally all day?
Oh, yeah. Do you have like those blind out? Oh, it's those.
Oh, blackouts.
Exactly.
Blinds.
Yeah. I've got the blackout blinders. My brother has blackout blinders and blackout curtains, and sometimes people will sleep with an eye mask too.
Oh my God. All this extra work just to sleep.
I would be wearing my sunglasses all day. Like, I'll never take them off and shit.
Exactly. But it's honestly so awesome though, because you can go like fishing in the middle of the night.
Snap. I never thought about it that way.
If you want to go catch some salmon when there's nobody else out on the river, you can go like in the middle of the night when the tides are good.
If you're like drunk, it's like, yo, I need like the midnight snack. It's like, yo, let me catch some salmon.
Yeah. You're hungry, go catch your own salmon.
Okay, Emma, I also hear that most people in Alaska never feel cold. Is this statement true?
Oh, I definitely do not agree with that statement. The fact that I am going to college in Arizona is a testament to the fact that that's not true.
You went as south as you could, as warm as you could.
Exactly. I was so sick of the cold. I needed to like thaw out for a 4-year period.
All right, next one. Igloos and dog sleds are a normal thing. I believe you have a dog sled next to your daily driver in the garage.
Yes, that's very true. I actually have a pet moose, and I put the saddle on the moose, and that's how we get around. We actually don't have cars in the state of Alaska.
That's really good for gas.
Mm-hmm.
That is really good for gas.
Exactly.
It's super
like that.
Really good for
eco-friendly.
the climate, Yeah, we're single-handedly saving, reversing climate change in Alaska by riding moose.
Somewhere Al Gore is very, very proud right now. It's like, see, they get it. They knew.
Oh, God.
Oh, she gets
What's
it.
more
She gets
expensive, moose feed or gas right now?
it. We didn't do a poll.
Moose, they be eating leaves and...
No, leaves are free. So you could have them just mow your front lawn by chewing on the grass. Yeah. It's like win-win.
I know that people will do that. They'll buy a goat and have their goat just hanging out in their backyard because the goat like trims the grass, so you don't have to, you don't have to go through and mow your lawn.
Okay, Emma, I don't know where to believe you right now with this goat comment.
Emma's sarcasm game is pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, damn.
I don't think actually that's not an Alaskan thing because you'd only be able to do that like 2 months out of the year. But I've definitely heard of people in the lower 48 who just have like goats in their yard for that sole purpose of mowing their lawn.
As a member of the lower 48, I currently do not own a goat for my backyard nor my front yard. So,
well, that'll be your next conquest.
Last one. The Alaskan flag has stars that represent the North Star and the Little Dipper.
Yes, that is true. And did you know that the Alaska flag was actually, the design was created by this like 13-year-old? Isn't that insane?
No, I did not know that.
That's pretty cool.
I know. Honestly, I was like, who would trust a 13-year-old to create the state flag? But I mean, Benny Benson did a good job. It's a great flag.
Props to her. But Emma, you were slightly wrong there. I said the Small Dipper, but it's actually the Big Dipper.
You got me. You did get me there.
I don't know if they'll let you back home in your home state now.
Honestly, I don't think they will. Tomorrow when I fly in, the flight attendants are going to like barricade the door and keep me out.
You might have to video call your moose just to say goodbye one last time.
I know. That's tragic.
Let's get into what you're up to these days. Can we first start off, get a little bit of background on where you were born and raised?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, actually. And so was my mom. So my mom's full Korean and my dad is white, making me Hapa. And my grandparents came to America from Korea right before my mom was born. So she was actually born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska. And so was my dad, making me a second generation Alaskan. But so my mom, I honestly, she's so funny. We call her like the most whitewashed Korean you'll ever meet because she doesn't speak the language. I think she understands a little bit of Korean. She's doesn't really make Korean food. So it's pretty hilarious. But my parents enrolled me in Korean school when I was 5
really?
because they wanted me to learn the language. And then I really regret this, but I cried every single day until my parents kicked me out. And now I tried learning Korean on Duolingo and I gave up. It was too hard.
Shout out to Duolingo, first of all.
I know, Duolingo.
Emma, if it makes you feel any better, I want to say 100% full Korean.
As far as you know.
As far as I know. And my Korean is trash. Like,
really? Well, say something. Let's see.
I guess. Oh, man, I'm sweating now.
You're putting him on the spot, but go, Ben.
I guess, 안녕, 너 밥 먹었어?
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't know any different, but
that's like basic. I literally just asked like, did you eat food? Like, that's all I can like think of. Like, if you put me in Korea, I'm like gonna be screwed.
Yeah, that's funny. Actually, the only phrase my mom knows how to say is "I'm full." Actually, there's two. She knows "I'm full," and then she also knows how to say "I don't know how to speak Korean." Those are like her go-to phrases.
We've joked about literally that exact thing on a past episode.
Yeah,
where
we did.
Those are the two things you need to know.
We'll give
There you
people
go.
a
Yeah.
disclaimer before we actually start speaking our languages. It's not good at all.
Oh man.
How is like the Korean exposure in Anchorage specifically?
My great aunt had fallen in love with a man who was in the army and he was stationed in Alaska. So when she came to America, to Alaska specifically, all of her relatives followed. And so it's really interesting that all of my great aunts and uncles live in Anchorage, Alaska. And so I grew up very much connected to my Korean heritage because all of my Korean relatives live in Alaska. Right. And I think about how different that would have been if they stayed in Korea and if I never got to have that connection with them. I probably wouldn't have ever had the chance to meet them if they stayed in Korea. But because they all came to Anchorage, I really was, I think that a lot of my childhood was related to my Korean heritage and learning about their stories. And so I'm very appreciative and I'm very lucky that I was able to have my whole family in America with me. But I was very much connected to my Korean heritage growing up because of that.
I like that.
I mean, we did some quick research and we found out that like certain parts of Alaska, I think Anchorage has a Korean population of less than 10,000.
The numbers around like 7,000, something like that.
Oh, 7,000.
Really? I actually didn't know that. And it's interesting because it kind of feels like there's a really large Korean population in Alaska. It's really fascinating, though. I think it's also because you've got to take into account the fact that Anchorage is like 270,000 people. You know, it's such a small city as is, right? I also think it might have just been like the part of town that I lived in and, you know, the people that I knew. But my grandpa was actually the president of the Korean Alaskan community. And so everybody kind of knows everybody. And it seems like every time I run into a Korean person, they're like, oh, your grandpa. Oh my.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really nice that it's such a tight-knit community, especially because Anchorage is so small anyways.
Considering it's such a small community, did you ever experience any racial tensions growing up? I'll be honest, at first glance, you don't specifically look super Korean, right?
It's interesting because I'm half Korean and I've met plenty of other, you know, half Asian, half white people who either look really Asian or look really white. And I think that in my case, I certainly am white passing. And so I didn't necessarily face that racial tension growing up, especially because I lived in a community that was so diverse.
Right.
You know, every once in a while I would get the eating dogs comment when I was growing up and I'd be like, okay.
Classic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where people wouldn't say it until they found out that I was Korean because I am white passing.
Yeah.
Because I was white passing, a lot of it was just me dealing with my own insecurities about not fitting that, you know, Eurocentric beauty standard and not necessarily people aiming those racial things at me.
Did your family or those that in your family that were full Korean, did they experience that?
You know, I actually have never really talked to them about it. I think that is something that we just don't talk about because, you know, there's just like a lot of weight there and we never really open up that conversation, which I really actually, you know, that's reminding me that I should probably ask my mom and I should ask my grandma. But I think that we're lucky that I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska and that it was already such a diverse community that it's It wasn't strange, And I think when I first came to Arizona for school, it was insane. I felt like I was the only Asian person within like a 4-mile radius of the campus. Yeah. Huh. It's Arizona, I think, especially in Phoenix and in Tempe and, Scottsdale area is very white dominated, it feels like. Right. And so it was really different. And I could only imagine what it would have been like if I grew up there versus in Anchorage with such a diverse community.
I think it's actually so interesting that because you're expressing that diversity to us, and unfortunately, because we're ignorant New Yorkers
we're not very well educated here. Our education here in New York's not the best.
I actually would have thought it would kind of have been the reverse, where you came down to Arizona for schooling. Maybe you got exposure to more cultures, but you're saying it's like the total opposite.
Exactly. And that was so shocking to me. I didn't quite realize just how diverse the community of Anchorage is, in Alaska in particular. I know we've got a really large, obviously, Alaska Native population. I think we've got a pretty large Hispanic population and a really large Asian population. Oh. So it's interesting. And I'm lucky that I got to grow up in such a diverse community. I think that it made for a much easier childhood than if I had grown up in a predominantly white community.
Piggybacking on that, I actually have cousins that are half Korean, half German.
Oh, really?
You sharing that story about like getting those like comments and stuff after they find out what you are. I remember growing up with them, they would tell me how they would hide their heritage and their background because of it, because they don't want to be targeted, because they were the only mixed Asian kids in their school. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. Like, it doesn't matter where. It's always just spans out.
Exactly.
Or you have a unreasonable fear of being targeted, so you don't want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of being in the spotlight, you now are very much in the spotlight. I know this is this question that you get asked all the time, but I feel like it's a good way to actually start this whole phase of your life. When you became, I was going to say Captain America, but that's totally not who you are.
So awesome.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're still working on that super soldier serum.
It's in the works.
But when you became, or when you were called to be Miss America, what was the first thought that came to your mind on that stage?
I immediately thought that they had seen AL on the card and thought that it was Alaska and that it was supposed to be Alabama, because the first runner-up was was Alabama. Yeah. And I feel like that's such a common thing, is people think that AL is Alaska, or they think AK is Arkansas. And I immediately was like, they made a mistake. Called the wrong girl.
I would have made that mistake just now.
Yep. So pessimistic.
It's like my biggest fear. I remember at Miss Universe a few years ago, Steve Harvey accidentally called the first runner-up. Yeah, and it was a whole thing. And so I feel like every time I go into something, I always go into it with a little bit of I just got to make sure that they really got it right. But I immediately just didn't think that they had called the right name. And it was just so much shock. And I truly didn't believe it. So, I mean, still to this day, every day I wake up and I'm almost 6 months in, I'm always halfway through, and I still have to pinch myself every morning when I wake up.
I don't know if you know, but it's a pretty big moment also for like the AAPI community.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that? Like, oh, snap, I'm part of this thing now that's kind of a bigger picture?
Yes, 100%. I often think about when I was growing up, I didn't really see people who looked like me in the entertainment industry in particular. It was just kind of a frustrating thing, It seemed like we always saw the same mold.
The stereotypes.
Mm-hmm. And it was definitely kind of frustrating, but it feels so wonderful to be able to be that person for somebody else, for them to be able to say, that girl looks like me and she's doing this and this and this, but she still looks like me. I think that representation in all different venues matters, whether it's in business or government or entertainment. Right. Mm-hmm. It's so incredibly important to have that representation. And so I'm really lucky that I'm able to play a small role in that for some young girl or guy out there.
Just kudos to you, by the way. Every time I see you like doing interviews, I think you kill it every time. Like, yes.
Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. Thank you.
And speaking of that, I was talking about my dad about you. I was like, hey, Dad, I'm going to be interviewing on Miss America. And he's like, yes. So I was like, dude, she's Korean. He's like, get the hell out.
Ah!
And she's from like Alaska. He's like, oh, it makes sense. The cold weather makes great skin.
What does the cold weather have to do with anything?
My dad is really weird, but my dad was like, yeah, it's cold up there, so she has great skin. Look at that skin. That's good, cold Korean skin.
A cold weather.
I was like, are you drunk, man? He's like, well, it's true. Go tell her that. Yes, I don't know. So I guess my dad's a scientist or he's a dermatologist now.
Sometimes, do you ever feel overwhelmed or strange to be made a symbol for the community?
Being Captain America.
Being Captain America?
I know, yeah, being Captain America especially. I think that one of the hardest things for me growing up was, especially growing up as somebody who's half white and half Asian, was kind of feeling like I didn't quite fit either mold. And so after I won Miss America, of course, it was a huge win for the AAPI community. Everybody was talking about how I was the first Korean American Miss America. Yeah. And I remember I was kind of struggling with that because I was like, I'm not fully Korean though. And I was anticipating people being frustrated the fact that, yes, I am the first Korean Miss America, but I knew that people were going to complain about the fact that I was half white. They're going to say, oh, the only reason she won and is actually Korean is because she's half white. And
there's always people like that. Those are the people that just drink the haterade.
That's so funny. I've never heard of that. The haterade. I know.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And so I was so incredibly excited to be able to experience this landmark moment. But at the same time, I also wasn't quite sure if I was allowed to market myself and to accept this win on behalf of the AAPI community. And so it was kind of this like internal dilemma that I had to deal with in the first few months. It makes total sense. And I totally understand where people are coming from. But of course it was just kind of that weird situation to be in where I just, had to figure that out for myself.
I mean, that's a total normal thing to feel, but I think that the best thing about it is that I think we see that you really do try your best, such as like a human thing that we can connect.
People don't necessarily expect you to be the perfect model of being 100% Korean in various different ways, but a lot of it is being given the opportunity to kind of discover more about your own heritage.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're doing that on a public platform for all of us in some ways.
And Emma, I'm going to say it again. You're okay because I'm supposed to be 100% Korean and I am so not Korean, okay? So
if you ever feel bad about yourself,
exactly,
just look at my co-host right here.
Yeah, man, don't worry.
But that's also, I think, why it's important that we have been able to really embrace this term of being Korean American, because we are Korean and we embrace, our Asian heritage, but at the same time, we also identify as being American. And so we can kind of maintain both of those identities at the same time. And I think that kind of is very representative of what America stands for fundamentally.
I guess the next other question I want to ask is like, do you see yourself struggling when it comes to like being seen as a symbol for the Asian female community as well?
The same thing that I understand that being half Korean and having that half white part of me definitely makes it more difficult for young girls to relate to me, young girls who are, specifically Asian. And I certainly want to be a symbol for young Asian females, but I also know that I am very much white passing. And so I haven't faced that same level of discrimination as other young ladies have who are looking up to me. Yeah. And so I think that still it's important to use my platform to openly speak about these issues and openly speak about my heritage and what makes an Asian American an Asian American.
Yeah, I think it's so nice that you're willing to be very open about all of this, because I think sometimes us from the outside, especially looking on Miss America and the pageant, we sometimes just see the facade of what's given to us.
Yeah.
We often forget that these are real women.
Yeah.
Everyone has their flaws. You have been very open about what makes you a regular human being with flaws.
100%. And I think that's so important, especially for a younger generation to see, because when they're growing up in this age of social media where they're essentially seeing highlight reels of
everyone's
all of the
best
people
moments
that they know. Exactly. And so it really creates this like false reality that they're living in, which can be really hard. I remember it was difficult for me. I think that Instagram really kind of started to ramp up when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I remember I got an Instagram account too. And of course I was doing the same thing. I was posting all my best pictures when I'm hanging out with my friends, making sure everyone knew that I had friends and that I was
living your best life.
Exactly, living my best life. But I think that it's such a strange time for this new generation to be growing up in. And so I think that some of us who are in these public roles kind of have an obligation to break down that highlight reel and to show the younger generations that they are, and to remind them that they are really just seeing the best parts of everybody on social media and that they don't have to compare themselves to that because it's completely not realistic.
Damn. Are you sure you're from Gen Z?
I was just going to say,
right?
Side question, and I forgot to ask this as part of the whole Gen Z thing. We're in our mid-30s. Do you think we're old?
I don't think so at all. Honestly, I don't consider that old because I'm 20 and I don't really know like at what age I would consider you old. Maybe if you're like 65 and you're considered a senior.
She's like, once
but I definitely don't consider that to be old.
Thank you.
Once you can get Social Security, then you are officially technically old. But before that point, I guess we're all forever young.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just going to use like 5 filters. Every time I post pictures, I'm just going to be, I need another one. I need another one.
We just talked about being your genuine self, and you're going to put 5 filters on your face. That's
so funny.
Just being true to myself.
That's totally not a thing.
I feel like for the most part, I know this is kind of a stereotype, but everyone thinks that Asians age really well. And honestly, I think that it's true for the most part, but I kind of think that it's because we have such oily skin that keeps your skin hydrated and moisturized that you're less likely to develop wrinkles at a younger age.
Somewhere my dad is saying, see, I told you. Somewhere my dad
It's oil and the cold weather.
Exactly.
That's what your dad's going to say.
Yeah.
See, son, I told you, man.
I honestly think it's true.
You know, Asians don't raisin, right? That's like
Asians don't raisin.
Yeah, that's the
I have
saying.
actually never heard that one.
I've never heard that either.
Yeah, that's what they say. I remember it was a chick that wasn't Asian. She was like saying, like, yeah, you Asians. Asians don't raisin.
Huh.
You got to give them props for it.
I was like, can I take you out sometime? I was like, that's amazing. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Emma, now that you are Miss America, do people treat you differently? And I mean people that you already knew.
Honestly, I don't really think so. I feel most of my relationships, I think, were already very well established before I won Miss America, and so everything has mostly stayed the same. But I can always kind of tell when somebody's coming to me and there's kind of like that, like they're being fake genuine, you know? And I did notice that after I won, a lot of people like wanted something from me, whether they wanted me to shout out their business on Instagram or something, you know, whatever it is. But you know, I'm sure you're very familiar. But I mean, for the most part, like everything I think has remained mostly the same. And honestly, on most days, I forget that I Miss America. Like today I was walking through the airport in sweatshirts and a tank top and then I got home and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I'm Miss America. That's crazy. It's insane. I just forget about it. And I definitely see myself still as a normal person, which I used to put Miss America on a pedestal when I was younger. I was like, that's literally Miss America. She is a god.
Right.
And now I'm like, it's just me. I guess it's just a normal person.
It's like, yo, I'm just chilling. I got to study later. You know, I got to do some errands. You know, I got to do the dishes. You know, I'm chilling.
It's crazy.
Can I ask you, I noticed you have to carry the sash and the crown. Do you have like a little suitcase thing for that? Like,
I do actually.
No way.
I'll go grab it from my bag, but I've got 2 in my
Is
apartment
it like
right
the
now.
foam shaped like the crown, and like it fits perfectly?
Yeah, it's like a suit. I'll show you. I've got
oh, shit, we got the inside scoop, yo.
Listeners can't see this obviously, but Emma is stepping away and she's gonna grab this, I guess, crown suitcase.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so this is actually a gift from the outgoing Miss America, Camille Schreier.
A shout out to
Camille.
Camille.
So it's just like a nice little
look at that.
box. It's got nice cushions in here.
Damn.
It's like pretty sturdy. Yeah, and then I have my other crown in like a very nice case.
Okay. That's a legit case right there. It's like a
she's like
museum worthy display case, and the handle is bedazzled. Is that the word that I'm looking for?
Yes,
I think so.
So this is one of our sponsors. They're called Crown Couture Collection, and they make these like really nice custom boxes that you can use to display your crown for the rest of your life. Or whatever.
Can I put my baseball cap in that?
Yo,
oh, yeah.
Will it work the same way?
A little pillow too. You like?
Yeah, I had to catch the pillow.
Isn't that cute? She's sleeping.
Yeah, she's sleeping. Yo, I would like just carry that with me. If I go to a restaurant, I'll just put it right in the middle of the table. You know what's up, right? It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll get you the secret menu.
My bad. Yeah, like, oh, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I know where else to put it. Actually, I forgot. I should have mentioned when you asked me the question about what's the most common question I get. A lot of people ask if I like sleep in my crown and if I just would go to the grocery store in it.
Yeah, she's like showering with it and everything.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Put the shower cap on it.
Yeah.
It would be crazy. I promise I'm not that crazy.
Is that thing heavy though?
No, it's really light.
Is it?
I think that it's just like rhinestones and crystals. So it's not that heavy. If I had to guess, I would guess 2 or 3 pounds.
Dude, that's heavy.
That's heavy.
Here, I'll show you. And it's like actually a little bit too large for my head.
Do they give it fitted? You know when you get like a fitted cap?
Oh my gosh, I wish that they did. So it's the same. It looks the exact same every single year, except for this year it's gold for the 100th anniversary.
You got the hookup.
Right. But it's always the same. It's been the same design since, Miss America came about 100 years ago. So the design, the dimensions have always pretty much stayed consistent. But my head's just a little bit too small. In fact, there was one Miss America who had a really tiny head and the crown just wouldn't fit on her head. So they had to make her a mini version.
Yeah. It's like a collar for her. She puts it on. It just wraps around her neck.
Oh, that would be so sick.
I mean, I've never been Miss America, so I don't know how heavy that thing is. I was just super curious.
Yeah.
It's fairly light. It's like really, it's comfortable to wear. I mean, after you've had it on for like 5 minutes, you forget it's there.
She developed like the neck muscles.
So, yeah. Every day I do my exercises. I'm like, I gotta strengthen my neck muscles.
I saw you playing with the thing right there and you almost dropped it. Can I ask you like a weird side question? Like I'm married, so I remember for the first year of my life after I got married, I kept touching my ring finger because I was so worried that I just lost my ring.
Really?
And now I've stopped doing that, of course.
Shout out to your wife.
I'm still married. I'm still married. Do you ever feel like nervous that you might drop the crown?
Yeah, or lose it?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard plenty of stories of Miss Americas who have like lost their crown or it just like falls and shatters. But so I actually have two. So this was the crown that I was crowned in and it broke. So I sent it in and they fixed it. And then they sent me this backup crown in the meantime. And then the backup crown also broke. I know. I am not very careful with these, I guess. But so now I have two of them. So I always have a backup, which is nice.
Here's what you need to do. Do not send the second one back. Just say you lost it.
I was going to say the same thing.
They're actually letting me keep it. Isn't that so dope?
Just keep doing it and give it to everyone in your family. It's like, yo, Oma, I have a surprise for you. It's like, what is this? Like, yo, I got you your own crown, yo.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God.
But I guess they had the backup one, like they made it the night that I won. I think they were anticipating a disaster.
Oh, God. Can I ask you, what is the worst or funniest moment that you've had so far being Miss America?
I was at an event at the Super Bowl, and I remember I was getting into this elevator with my tour manager, and this like random older guy was just like following me around asking me questions, and he was like following us into the elevator, and he was like, do you have any tattoos anywhere on your body?
Wow.
Or something else that was like super out of pocket that he asked, and then like the elevator closed and we were like,
I hope you had a bodyguard or someone.
She said, just your agent, you said?
yeah, so my tour manager and then typically somebody from the event who I'm there for will typically like be there as well. But it was just so random.
Yeah.
I was like, that's such a random question. And I don't have any tattoos, so I didn't have anything fun to show him. But it was just, he was like, do you have any tattoos, man? He really wanted to know, I guess.
He was probably like, yo, are you a queen of something? Do you own a country? What's up?
Yeah, honestly. Sometimes when I go out without my sash and just my crown, the most common question I'll get is, oh, is it your birthday or are you getting married?
Oh,
Don't tell me, do they have Burger Kings in Alaska?
We do, actually, yeah.
You know the Burger King crown?
Did you go to Burger King yet? I haven't gotten that one yet, but if I do get that question, which there's a good chance I will, I'll let you know.
Yo, just do a sponsorship. Yo, Burger King, like, let's be real. Let's work something out.
You're like, I actually am the Burger King.
And I'll do some commercials. Let's up.
Exactly.
If you're ever in New York and you see someone screaming, how was the Whopper? That's probably us.
Yes.
I'll remember that.
All right. So the opposite of what Lingjie just asked is, what's like the coolest moment you've had so far? Celebrity maybe, or just something funny?
Also, when I was there at the Super Bowl, I got to meet a lot of celebrities. I met Cody Ko, which like I've always been a really big fan of Cody Ko. And then I met Shaquille O'Neal. He was just there.
You met Shaq?
At an event. It was so funny.
Damn, she met Shaq, bro.
He was just so tall. He was towering over me. I mean, I know that he's tall, but I was like, dang, this guy's really tall.
Was he like,
we need to make your crown like an extra 3 feet.
Yeah, for her. Did he come up to you? He's like, hey, are you a queen of something? Or like, what are you doing?
Is that your best Shaq?
That's my Shaq. That's my Shaq.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good impression, I feel like.
Thank you. Shaq, if you hear this. There's a compilation of Shaq just eating things that look really tiny in his hands. There's a
What?
compilation of it. You can look it up. It's like him drinking a water bottle, him eating like a Krispy
that's
Kreme
so
donut,
funny.
or like him eating a chicken
I have
wing.
to watch that.
Yeah, that's me when I'm bored.
hilarious, actually.
And you just see everything. It's like, my God, it looks so tiny. And he just holds it with like his finger.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to watch. That actually sounds hilarious. I'm going to watch that video after this.
We'll try to find the link and send it to you, though.
Yeah.
Moving past this. Oh, one quick thing. I found out one of the main reasons why you first applied to be Captain America was because of school scholarships, right?
Yeah. So one of the big draws for me competing in Miss America was, of course, I needed the scholarships. And I ended up winning a record $100,000 in scholarships the night that I won Miss America.
Yeah,
which is
respect.
amazing. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I also get paid a 6-figure salary during my year of service. And so I can put all of that money toward medical school, which, of course, that's going to last me like a year and a half.
Year and a half,
Yeah.
2 months. Maybe after the first semester we're done. You're like in debt already.
Exactly. I know. That's what I'm saying. But it was kind of like one of the big reasons that I wanted to compete. And it was really cool that this year for the 100th anniversary, they gave away twice the amount they usually do. I think usually it's around like $50,000. But
Oh, wow. Perfect timing.
one of the former Miss Americas, Chantel Worsh, she and her husband donated an extra $50,000. And so they made it an even 100.
Props to them. You know what this also says in like a weirdly sad way? If America had free education, Emma would not be Miss America right now.
Yeah. She's very
You would
angry
have
about
never
that.
entered the contest.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
It's like, yo, you want us to pay for like half of your school? Just become Miss America. I got you. How? It's easy, right?
That
You know?
says a lot about education here.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you have any plans post being Miss America?
Honestly, I'm going to jump right back in to school. So I'm a little over halfway through my undergraduate degree. And so it's kind of like unconventional that I'm taking a gap year in the middle of my degree, but I'm going to jump back in. I have 3 semesters left and then I'll start prepping for the MCAT and then I'll go to medical school. So I'll go right back to the grind.
On campus, do they come up to you, like, they look at you and they kind of squint like, yo, this girl looks so familiar. But
What's
I don't
that
know why.
weird thing on her head?
Yeah,
That
it's like-
clearly looks like a crown on her
Like,
head.
she's like eating in the cafeteria with like the crown. I'm like, yo, I swear I've seen this girl before, yo. I swear.
I would be so crazy for that. But honestly, not that often. I kind of like it. It feels like I have a lot of privacy when I'm in Arizona.
I would have imagined that on campus with younger people and with social media being so heavily active there, that clearly people would have known who you are.
Especially if it just rocks the crown. It's like, oh, I know who you are. You're the Queen of Alaska, aren't you? I know it.
That would be crazy if I actually wore that crown all the time. But ASU has like such a huge student body that I kind of like getting lost in the mix. I think we've got like near 100,000 students, which is just absolutely insane.
That is,
That is a lot of people.
It's kind of nice. I feel like you kind of get lost in the crowd, which I kind of can appreciate.
That's cool. I guess a certain part of you is just ready to get back to normal life.
Honestly, it has been very easy. And I say that because the pandemic really kind of changed the direction of the work that Miss America does. So a lot of the stuff that I do is like what I'm doing right now. I'm filming a podcast with you from my apartment in Arizona, right? So it's been kind of nice that a lot of the events that I've been able to do have been virtual. So it's kind of made for a very calm and relaxed year for the most part, which means that I get so much downtime. Honestly, I don't really know what to do with myself. I feel like I have so much free time.
I don't know. I just feel like you're such an overachiever that it's like,
oh my gosh, not at all.
Just won Miss America. I'm gonna go take my MCATs, but yo, no biggie. Oh, I met Shaq, by the way. All right, cool. I like that.
Are you taking classes right now? Remote classes, 1 or 2 of them at least? Or are you really doing that full gap year?
I did take 1 class this semester, but I had to defer my merit-based scholarship for a year, and it ended up being like $5,000 for 1 3-credit class. And so I am just going to hold off and wait until I can use my scholarship again because it's so expensive. Isn't that crazy?
The theme of this podcast is education is very, very expensive no matter who you are.
Exactly. I was like, I took 1 like 5-week 3-credit class and it was $5,000. Dang.
Emma, this goes back to the thing that Ben was saying. You need to get as many crowns of these lost, quote unquote lost, as possible. So
Put it on eBay.
On eBay in the future, you never know. You can get your 3rd semester, your graduate school, your medical school paid off.
Every crown.
School, no debt.
When she pays it off, she just puts that crown on. Like, yo, here you go.
Oh my gosh. Giving me ideas.
We like to wrap up every single podcast with a segment that we call ranting and raving. It's just a quick, lighthearted way for us to end every single podcast. The host, Ben and I, and the guests each take a turn raving about something good happening in our lives or ranting about something crappy in our lives. It can be completely random.
Doesn't have to pertain to anything that we talked about.
You want to go first, Ben?
Okay. Speaking of Anchorage and Utica fish and salmon and stuff.
Oh God, where's this going?
Just listen. So I was at the restaurant. Right? I was in a restaurant. I was working, right? And then I noticed, I guess they had a menu on the table. I was wondering, I noticed the menu. Is there anything I could get you? They're like, we just want to check. I'm like, oh.
So aggressive.
Exactly. I was like, oh my. So I was like, is everything okay? They're like, how do you not have salmon on your menu? Huh? And I'm like, sometimes, I guess we just sold a lot today and, we have a certain amount.
Oh, so you typically have salmon,
we
but
do
you
have salmon
sold
on
out
the
that
menu.
day.
We just ran out. So like, that's unbelievable. How can you not have salmon? I'm like, oh.
You mean they just kept going on about not having salmon?
Dude, it was a married couple.
Don't blame it on them being married. That doesn't make you bitter people.
I'm just trying to paint the picture.
Oh, God.
Like, they're just grilling me. Like, I don't get it. There's a Whole Foods right next door.
A Whole Foods
supermarket. Can't you just go there and get it for us and cook it?
She was asking for you to leave your restaurant, go to Whole Foods next door.
Yes, come back with the brown bag and everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, man, I think COVID has made people forget how restaurants and just going out.
How things actually work.
So yeah, I guess that's I don't know. Is that a?
Are you ranting about them or are you raving about being baffled by their statements?
I think just speaking about it just got me more baffled.
How about you, Emma?
So last night, and I can't believe that this was just last night. It seems like a year ago, but I was in DC. The event that I was there for was for the APAC Gala, which is the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. Ooh. And it was a really neat gala. There were so many influential Asian Americans there, and I got to meet so many people that I admire. And one of them being Steve Aoki.
Oh,
his last name?
Aoki.
Yeah. I think it's Aoki. I think it's Aoki.
I've always said Aoki.
I think it's Aoki.
You think it's Aoki? I've always said Aoki.
They will agree to disagree.
All right, Steve, come on the pod.
Well, I'll ask you. Yeah, yo.
Exactly. But it was so cool. And he's probably I think of all the people I've met this year, of all the celebrities I've met, he probably smelled the best, which sounds so creepy.
Was it?
He just smelled so good.
He has
I think
great
it was
hair.
his hair product.
His hair game is strong.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And then also the vice president was speaking and I was sitting in the very front row. So I was probably less than 10 feet away from her. And it's crazy. They had the Secret Service had to do a whole sweep of the ground floor of this area we were having the gala at. And then she wasn't allowed to interact with the audience at all. She had her two, of course there's a ton of guards. And then the two that were next to her on the floor. They're both holding their suit jackets like this, ready to grab their gun at any moment. It was crazy. I didn't realize just how intense the security is, but it makes sense. You can't have anything happen to the president or the vice president. But it was so cool. She was just there in person, which being from Alaska, you don't often see public figures in person ever. And I was just so shocked that she was just sitting in front of me.
So that means you weren't close enough to smell her and compare her to Steve.
Oh, I know. Honestly, I should have just pretended to be a Secret Service agent.
Should have. I hope this gala had salmon. By the way, I hope they had delicious salmon for you.
Oh, man.
Okay. Normally, I take this segment to always bitch or complain about something. I always do.
Very fair.
I'm gonna take this segment just to be a little bit serious for a second. My great aunt, she passed away recently. And I just want to give a shout out to her, obviously, her life and everything she's done, and in some ways dedicate this episode to her. They can say a lot about you by who turns out to your funeral, right? I've never seen as many damn people at a funeral than I did when I went to her funeral.
That's amazing.
They had so many flowers that they couldn't even keep it in the funeral service room. So that just says a lot about her life in general, how many people she touched, and everything. Quick story, when me and my parents first came to this country, she literally took us from the airport, took care of us that day, took us to the grocery store, bought us a cleaver and a cutting board just to make sure we had something to cook with.
Yeah, exactly.
And my parents still have that cleaver.
Wow.
It's a very crappy cleaver, by the way, but we still have it because, in a lot of ways, it means a lot to us.
That's amazing, man.
So shout out to my great aunt.
That's an amazing story. Wow. May she rest in power.
Okay, Emma, this was super fun. I say that all the time, but I really mean it this time. Not saying anything to the other guests, by the way. But
yeah, I was just gonna say, like, my eyes just got big.
I'm just kidding.
I'm like the agent, like,
I'm just kidding. I like all the other guests. We're friends.
We love you all. Yes.
We tease you all. But Emma, you are super, super cool.
Yeah.
We have preconceived notions of Gen Z that have been shattered today.
Yes. Demolish, abolish.
Yay!
And also just, the Miss America thing.
Yeah.
Having you being so laid back, so down to earth has been really cool to see.
You are very dope.
And we hope that this episode, this conversation was a bit more lighthearted, because I know you go through a lot of interviews, a lot of press, a lot of questions. I'm not going to say they're dry, but they're dry.
Or repetitive.
No, this was a really fun interview. I feel like we were so productive. I feel like we covered so much. And I talked about a lot of things that I don't typically get to talk about in like a standard news interview. So this was awesome.
Steve's hair.
Yes.
Stealing crowns.
Yes.
Burger King sponsorships. Shaquille O'Neal.
Shaq, yo.
Moose are good for the environment.
Yeah.
Goats make very good organic lawnmowers. Don't forget that, guys.
Don't forget it. Don't forget it.
Where can our listeners find you if they want to keep up with what you're up to on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, my Instagram is Emma Broyles, BROYLES_. And then the Miss America Instagram is just Miss America, @Miss America. And that's typically where a lot of my stuff is posted.
Are you doing anything in the near future that you want to promote or spotlight or anything?
I'm going to the Special. So Special Olympics is kind of my main platform as Miss America, and I'm headed to
we
their
forgot to talk about
USA Games. Oh no, it's totally good. Honestly, a majority of the interviews that I do, all I talk about is Special O. So I am headed to their USA Games that are in Orlando, Florida, in about a week or so, and so send your best vibes to all of the athletes around the country that are going to be competing.
Yeah, go kill it. What's it? I think your brother's name is it Brendan, I believe.
Brendan, yeah.
There you go. Shout out to Brendan.
Shout out to Brendan.
Yes, awesome.
You're a great younger sister. I believe he's the older one, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, you know your stuff.
We do our research once in a while. I'm
impressed.
Ben does a lot of weird internet stalking. Maybe he was the guy that screamed, "Do you have a tattoo?"
That was me, actually, Emma. I apologize. It comes full circle. I am so sorry about that. All right. Apologize to your manager as well.
Okay.
That's okay. It's a valid question. I'm kidding.
Okay, if you guys want to stay up to date with what Ben and I are doing on a daily basis, catch us on all the social medias at Worst Asian Pod. We're on the exact same handle everywhere at Worst Asian Pod.
Yep.
Emma, once again, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And to the listeners, catch us every single week, every single Thursday, rain or shine, whether there's people screaming tattoos or not at you.
Yeah.
Take care.
We're here.
Bye.
Later.